Picture this. You have spent months and months making your project and it's finally done. And guess what? It's actually gotten into some major film festivals. You're at the film festival, it comes time to sell the movie, and you can't. Why can't you? Because you don't even own the movie. Let's talk about copyright and AI. This is Real Intelligence, the podcast where we talk about everything AI and filmmaking, the tools, the news, and any information you might need to know. I'm Katya Alexander. For those of you who don't know me, I've been an indie producer for 10 years. I sold my first film to Abamarama. I had a feature win South by Southwest. It was later sold to IFC and became a trending film on Hulu. I worked in the Las Vegas Sphere, which is a boot camp between the intersection of entertainment and technology. And now I am the head of production at Fable Studios, which is the studio behind Showrunner AI.
Real intelligence leading the way. AI insights, it's what you crave. Real intelligence, turn up the light. Stay informed all through the night.
In this episode, I am going to talk about copyright. Copyright when it comes to AI is extremely confusing, and I want to just stop all this confusing chatter and explain it in simple ways so that you know if your film is copyrightable or not. So what has the Copyright Office said about AI since it has become so popular? Basically, what it says is the simple copyright law that has always existed. It can only be copyrightable if it was made by a human. Now, this goes all the way back to long before AI even existed, when this man handed his camera to a monkey and the monkey took a picture. And the picture ended up winning a bunch of awards because the monkey took it. Later, when the guy tried to copyright the image, the Copyright Office said that he couldn't because it wasn't made by a person. It was made by a monkey. It's so interesting that something that happened before anybody could even fathom AI existing is the precedent of all the AI law now. But it is, and it should be. I do agree that if it wasn't made by a human, it shouldn't be able to be copyrighted. But does that mean if you used AI at all of a sudden you can't copyright your work? No, not even a little bit. So let's talk about what the definition is of being made by a person and not being made by a person when it comes to AI. Let's get the simple things out of the way. If you ask ChatGPT to generate a script for you, and that's the final script, that script obviously cannot be copyrighted. It was completely made by ChatGPT, and you had very little involvement beyond writing a prompt. It's the same thing when if you just have an image from Midjourney, or you have Runway pop out a couple shots. Those shots, that image, that script, you can't copyright it because a robot made it. But even when you're thinking about using these tools, usually the tool, at least in my case, is step one. It's not the final step. So what does that mean for the copyright law? An example, you're not just publishing Runway clips. You're taking the Runway clips, you're editing them together, you might be adding a sound design, and then you're publishing it. Technically, that was made by a person. Now, could somebody go in and take those clips and put them in a new order now? Yes, because you can't copyright those clips. But you can copyright your final product, which is where it becomes important when we're talking about selling your movie and taking out an insurance plan on your movie. So here's a really good example. There was this comic book, Zara of the Dawn. I don't know if I pronounced that right, and people wrote the script, they wrote the layout, but then they had Midjourney generate all of the images. In the end, they were able to copyright the script of their comic book, but they weren't allowed to copyright any of the images used, which kind of gets us into a weird area because you can't copyright a look of something anyway. If an animated show comes out, technically anybody can make a show of that exact animation style because you can't copyright a style. So how do you make sure something is copyrightable and what part of it is copyrightable? To talk about that, we need to first talk about the fact that most of the models we're using today are not clean models, meaning they're not models that were entirely trained on clean data or data that was licensed to be trained. It just scraped the internet and whatever came up, that is what the AI is using to generate your item. On a small scale, that's not really a big deal if you're a person sort of making something in your bedroom, but if you are trying to do something bigger, like you are bringing something to a studio or you're trying to get some substantial funding for something, most people won't want you to use a non-clean model when it comes to generation, if generation is even a part of your film, because there are so many different ways to use AI in a film. Generation tends to be a very small portion of it. What I've seen a lot of people do is, let's say there's an artist already working on the film, or they just hired an artist to come work on a film. What you can do is train a model based on that artist's work, which is something that you licensed in the first place, and then create more images out of that artist's work. That prevents you from being sued later by someone who might claim, well, you used a model that was trained on my work, so in a way you broke the copyright by stealing my work. That area is still a little bit gray, and it's still being fought about in the courts, because technically you can use somebody's work if you change it substantially, and having an image completely generated that is not your image is a pretty substantial change. But it's something that I do when I am planning a project. We tend to hire artists, and then we train models based on their work with their permission, with their cooperation. And then we just have a clean model that we can create something out of instead of just using Runway or Midjourney. So let's start from the beginning of the filmmaking process. Let's say you wanted to use ChatGPT to help you write the script. Notice how I say help you write the script and not write the script for you, because if it wrote the script for you, you can't copyright it. What you can have ChatGPT do is a couple of things. One, something that I do is I have ChatGPT ask me a ton of questions about the thing that I'm writing and developing, and it allows me to answer those questions and think about those parts of my story. And then when I'm done doing like a multiple hour brain dumping session, I ask ChatGPT to give me a cohesive and easy to read outline of every single thing that I told it. Then I have an outline that I can use for the rest of the creation of the project. And it's copyrightable because it's entirely my ideas. All ChatGPT did was organize the ideas. But let's say you don't even want to write the script. You want ChatGPT to write the script. Technically, that actually is fine. If you want ChatGPT to write the script, as long as you go in and you edit the script, basically having ChatGPT write the first draft and then you go in and you edit the whole draft, technically you can copyright that script because there was human involvement. The way I like to think about it is scrambling an egg. If you can separate what AI did from what the human did, you can separate the yolk and the whites, then you can't copyright it. Or you can at least only copyright the part that the human actually did. But if you scramble that egg up, as in ChatGPT wrote a script and you practically rewrote it and you fully edited it, and you can't really tell what ChatGPT did compared to what you did, then you're fine. You can copyright that script. So then we go into the next part of the filmmaking process. I already mentioned in generation ways to get around using other people's work to generate your images. So let's talk about just in general what you can copyright if you are generating work. Technically, characters, story ideas, that you can copyright because those you came up with. If you have AI generate exactly what your character is going to look like, you can't copyright the look of that character. But if you hire artists to create what that character looks like, and you only use AI to like generate new images with that character, then you actually can copyright it. Something else I see a lot in the AI space, especially for projects that are actually very good and worth watching, is they're not generating the entire image, they're only generating assets. So one of the biggest examples I have is Paul Trillo's Kuko. He didn't generate just a single image and then have it be animated. He generated every single tiny asset in that entire image. If you see a dog wagging his tail, he generated that dog separately, made an asset of a dog wagging his tail, and put it into the larger picture. He then used Blender and After Effects to create these 3D scenes that he could have the camera move within. All of that is copyrightable because he chose what everything looked like. He built the entire scene. He chose the camera movements. He created all of those shots. The only thing he didn't create were the assets that are within those shots. And then even then, he had artists come in and sort of start designing all of that stuff. So the characters and everything, that was all copyrightable as well because an artist did actually design all of that. It was more so when they were generating a ton of assets in all these different angles and all these different scenarios. That's when AI got involved. But let's say it's just something you can't do. and you do need to generate your final image. What I will tell you is that that image cannot be copyrighted, no matter what. Will that affect the sale of the movie? It really depends on the distributor. Most likely not, because it doesn't mean the overall movie can't be copyrighted, but that's where you kind of get into a gray area. So if you're generating all these clips and you personally, or a human being in general, is editing them together, choosing the sequence, choosing the pacing, choosing every single thing, then that final item, you can copyright it. Another thing you can do if you do need to just generate an image or you just do need to generate the shot is change the shot in some way. So if it's a moving shot, put it into After Effects and change it up. Or if it's an image from Midjourney, let's say, you can put it into Photoshop, change it, make it exactly your own, and then put it into your movie. That way, although it was initially generated by AI, you still had a part to play. If having a single shot not be copyrightable is something you're afraid of, that is something that I would do. The more a person can't figure out what AI did and what you did as a person, the more the project as a whole would follow copyright law. What you can also do is copyright things as separate elements. So you can copyright the script, you can copyright the edit, you can copyright a voiceover, you can copyright the different elements that were made by a human and just leave out the parts that weren't made by a human. Would that later affect your sale? Again, it's really going to depend on the distributor. I'm sure a lot of distributors don't really care because they care more about the copyright of the story than they do anything else. But it is something to think about if selling your film is your final goal. Another thing to check when you're using AI tools is, do you end up owning the work that is generated in the end? Some tools won't have you own the work, and actually it's owned by that platform. So make sure that whatever platform you're choosing to use, it's a platform where you do own the things that you generate instead of the platform owning the things that you generate. Something to keep in mind that the legal gray areas are tightening every single day, so it is important to stay up to date on what the copyright laws are at any given time. But as things are becoming more clear, copyright offices are holding sessions to teach people about what is copyrightable and what's not copyrightable. They also are constantly posting papers and explanations, so if it's something you do want to stay up to date on, it's pretty easy to do so. It's important that if you are going to use AI in your project, you have to be able to document everything, because that documentation is going to be sent to your insurance company at the end of making your film. And to sell your film, you need to have insurance. So document every single thing that you did and every single thing that you used AI for. And make sure that anytime you used AI, you can prove afterwards that there was still human involvement, so that piece is still copyrightable. Something that I do really love about these copyright laws is it does keep humans in the conversation always. I love the fact that these copyright laws protect humans, so they always need to be heavily involved in the work they're creating. They can't just generate an image and call it a day. They have to generate an image and then make a painting out of it or change it in some way. And that is how it should be. The future isn't AI makes a film. The future is a filmmaker uses AI as a tool to make their film. That is a very important distinction. So what do you think about this? Is there anything about the copyright laws that make you nervous and excited? Is there anything that I left out? Please leave a comment below. Also, if there's anything you want me to talk about more, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to answer any questions you have or even make a full episode about it. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe because it helps grow the channel and I would be so appreciative of that. I'm Katya Alexander and this is Real Intelligence.